Hi, my name is Jeannie Bolet, and I would put chili oil into my immigrant jam.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. We are back with another fresh out the oven, delicious and nutritious episode of Immigrant Jam, the podcast. I'm your host, Lucie Paul, coming at you live through Zoom. Yes, it's another remote record. But today, our guest is so special. She's one of my favorite people on earth. She was born in Liverpool. I think that's right. If not born, then raised. We'll find out more about that. She's part Chinese, part Vietnamese. She is part extraterrestrial angel being. She is gorgeous. She's hilarious. She is an actress and a writer and a voice actor on Overwatch. That's how we met. Overwatch 2 as well. It's the amazing, the beautiful, the absolutely genius Miss Jeannie Bolet. Hey, welcome to Immigrant Jam, the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I always feel so, you know what? I'm going to get mushy straight away. I just always feel so loved by your intros, by your birthday message that you sent me. There's just a whole lot of love for you, Lucie.
I have so much love for you too. And sometimes you don't have to be friends with someone for a long time to know that our souls were probably friends
We
long
probably were.
before we met in the metaphysical realm.
Yeah, I believe we were having coffee dates on the astral plane.
I
Yeah.
know, right? Seriously. For those of you who don't know Jeannie Bolet, you're about to get to know her and fall in love. You're from the UK. That's where you were born.
Yeah. I was born in Liverpool. My dad was Vietnamese, and my mom is Chinese from Hong Kong. So yeah, I definitely don't look like my name, but that's the name I was born with. And there's a really cool immigrant story behind that. I want to say it's cool. Is it? It's a survival story, which I think most of name changers come from survival, or reinventing yourself. So
Very true.
my dad, when he left Vietnam, which was, I think it was like 56 or 57, so before the war, uh, he had to get his sister out of Vietnam because she made a boo boo. She worked for, I don't know, like a treasury or something, and she borrowed some money and gave it to a relative and thought she would get it back
Mhm.
because the relative said, I'll double it or triple it. And they were like, yeah, that sounds great. Um, but they didn't, and they disappeared. And so my poor aunt, who was so gullible and sweet, God rest your soul, uh, yeah, she was really up shit creek without a paddle because I don't know, like whoever she worked for, they found out and they were like, if you don't bring that money back, you're going to jail, or or something's going to happen.
Whoa.
So my dad was I want to say he was the second oldest, but not the most academic. All of his other brothers, super academic, going into like medicine, pharmacy, blah, 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 engineering, all of that. And he's just like on the street smoking cigarettes going, yeah. He was an advocate of the College of Knowledge. You know what I mean? He's like the School of Hard Knocks, College of Knowledge. But yeah, he was voted by his family to take his sister out of the country. I mean, that's how serious I guess it was.
So wait, they voted? There was an actual vote?
Not a vote, like a family vote. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Like
Where
who
which
should
means
go?
like his mom was like, you.
You and your no job prospect future, you. So he
Wow.
he took my aunt on an adventure through. Um, they were from the north of Vietnam, and they took an adventure through Cambodia, um, and somehow acquired, some documents with names on them, and that happened to be a Bollet.
Ah, do you know
Yeah,
what the actual name was before
my
Bollet?
family. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really common Vietnamese name. It's Nguyen. So that is actually my family name, but I've never gone by that name. My dad never changed it. I think he just saw it as an opportunity to, you know, be someone else. He witnessed his father being taken away by the North Vietnamese army when he was 10. You know, they lost their home and moved down to the south. And I think it was just his way of reinventing himself and wiping the slate clean.
Mm-hmm.
But his sister changed her name back to the family name in the 70s,
Mm.
I believe. And my dad's still rocking the Bollet. He went on to France, did his national service, and, you know, so we've never known, we've never carried the name. I think we feel it, but at the same time, we're just like, dude, we're trying to make our way through a brand new culture,
Mm.
and there were no Vietnamese people where I grew up in Liverpool until probably the mid to late 90s.
So what was that like?
Honestly, it just, anything that I heard in Vietnamese was from my family. It didn't feel like I missed too much until I finally met them.
Mm.
It's like my dad learned to speak Cantonese to speak to my mom. And then when he got to England, he adopted Liverpool colloquialisms and slang like it was, he was a duck to water. He loved it.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
He was so of the people. He was like, all right, mate. You're like, yeah, you're all right. Nice.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. And sometimes with a French twinge in his accent. So he sounded a little like Ren and Stimpy, like Ren. I just love cartoons. Anyway,
Yeah.
all my references are going to be cartoons. I didn't really feel like I missed out on anything until I met them for the
Mm.
first time. We came over to America, and that's when all my cousins asked me, why is your name different? How come your name's different? I was like, is it?
Hmm.
How ignorant of me. But
Well,
yeah,
how could you have known? I mean,
yeah, right.
so why England? Was there someone there? Was it just because it was the most prosperous or the most accessible for them?
My mom she's from Hong Kong, which up until 97 was a British colony.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of bad stuff about colonization, but a lot. But I also have to say, this was a good thing, I think.
Mm.
I don't know any other way. So
Mm-hmm.
my mom moved to England because she could. She was
Mm-hmm.
a subject of the crown. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's a subject of the crown, but she was a British
Crown person.
crown person, Commonwealth, whatever you call it.
She was a crown woman.
Was she the crown? Yes.
But why did your dad and his sister choose England?
Well,
Did they know someone there?
so my dad actually dropped his sister off in Cambodia, in Thailand. And was
Oh,
he was
whoa.
like, take care, do your thing, whatever, right? And then he went on to France to do his national service. So they just
Uh-huh.
parted ways. Um, it's like 1960s, and my dad finishes his French national service and goes back to Thailand, hang out with his sister, and he starts working with this real estate banking type tycoon, and he takes my dad on as his right hand guy because my dad's military trained.
Mm.
So I think a lot of shenanigans ensued.
Because you need a military guy when you're in real estate.
I mean, he was a banker as well, so I'm just like, what is that? What I don't know. It sounds
Oh
shady.
no. Sounds
Shady.
shady.
So, so anyway, my dad was sent to Hong Kong to visit one of this guy's businesses, and that's where he met my mom in Hong Kong. So it's just traveling all over the
Uh-huh. So they met in Hong Kong, and then your dad was like, all right, well, you're a woman of the crown. You can go to England. So let's go to England.
it wasn't so much that he gave up his job, and so he wasn't working for this guy, which is the shady guy.
Hmm.
And my mom got pregnant probably before they got married. And then he tried to live a noble life, but nobody would employ him, and he just couldn't stick with
Why?
the job. I honestly, I feel like when I look back, I feel like he probably had a form of PTSD, or if not
Mm.
PTSD, I think he just wasn't made to answer to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would have called him an entrepreneur, because he wasn't so great with money. Um, but he was great with people. You
Mm.
know, he was so learned. Really studying in the College of Knowledge served him well. He had an amazing personality, and knew so much. So so yeah, he couldn't find a job, didn't want a job, probably didn't want to be told what to do. And so my mom was like, well, maybe we should leave then. Maybe we should go further afield, because her sister had gone to England to become a midwife.
Ah.
And that's why. And my grandmother also left probably around the time my second brother was born. She followed my aunt to go and live in England. And that's why Liverpool, that is why we ended up there. It's so random, but yeah.
Did your parents feel at home there, do you think?
I think, yeah, I do. I think my dad adapted very quickly to, I mean, he loved going to pubs, and I'm not going to lie, pub life is life. And oh, you can try private club.
You can take the girl out of England, but you
Yeah.
can't take the pub out of the girl. Are you also one of those people that doesn't mind the question, where are you from, but sighs internally a little bit because you know it's going to take a while to explain?
No, I just feel like, honestly, it's a question that I like to ask.
Me too. That's
Yeah.
why I said a question that that you don't mind, but when I get it, I always love saying where I'm from, and
Yeah.
my history is a little less or complicated than yours, or maybe not. But I always kind of go like, okay, I hope this person really wanted to know because this answer is gonna be a little long. I hope you weren't just asking like,
Yeah.
sort of to
Don't be
fill
polite, just
space. Yeah.
be interested.
But I love asking the question too. And it kind of makes me sad that it's gotten like a little bit stigmatized now as being, or, it is something that some people use to kind of express racism
Mhm.
sometimes. But I do find it sad because growing up in New York, that was always the first question you would ask each other because everybody was from somewhere else here. So now I'm almost like sad when I feel like I can't ask people without, adding like, I don't want to, it's not that I don't think you're from here, I
Right.
just am interested in your story or whatever.
It's sad that we have to preface it with that. And hopefully, the person who's on the receiving end of that question has the opportunity to see the face or hear the tone of the person asking,
Right.
because then it comes from a place of curiosity, in a kind and just human sort of, we're human beings. I just want to know what your journey is. I want to know how this person appeared.
So what do you say when someone asks you, where are you from?
I tell them I'm from Liverpool, first of all, and they're kind of like, what? Uh, and then by way of, and I'll always, if I answer Liverpool, it's probably my own fault that I then get the question, but where are your parents from, or where are you really from?
Right.
And again, it doesn't offend me, because I realize that I formed the question sort of out of order, the answer out of order. So, but yeah, I tell them where I'm from, and then they're just like, oh, and I don't think they know where to begin.
Mm,
You know what I mean? If the
right.
conversation was to continue, which path are you going to take? And then also, but America.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you yourself became an immigrant because you left Liverpool and you live in
Yeah.
LA and you've lived there for quite some time growing up in Liverpool because you said there was no Vietnamese people. Did you have any experiences when you were younger where you were like, "Oh, we're immigrants and that's sort of our place here?"
Very, very rarely did it ever feel like I didn't belong. I didn't realize I was an East and Southeast Asian young woman until I was about 14 or 15. And I think
Wow.
it came from putting makeup on and spending time in the mirror and just realizing, oh, it's really strange. I had two communities. We had the Chinese community, and then where I went to school. I never felt like I didn't belong. I do feel like there is and was that that sort of like underlying yeah, prejudice, but I don't know if I'm just too thick and it didn't hit me in that way, and so maybe that's good. That was my protection. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I think it's interesting because some people have that experience and some people don't. And some people, say, oh, it's because I grew up in this place that was very diverse. And then other people grow up in a place that's not diverse and don't feel different or strange or don't get, teased or don't feel like an outsider. So I always think that's so interesting. And it must be something that your parents also did or the home environment did, right? To make you feel like you weren't an outsider, I guess.
I
No?
First of all, you talked about like the environment that I grew up in. It was like a war zone. My mom and dad argued all the time, and so I feel like I just felt like nothing can get any worse than that.
Wow.
There's
Okay,
nothing
so
out
so
there.
maybe that's what it was, right?
Yeah, it's just like,
Wow.
oh, I would get called names like, I don't know, people. It was very, very rare when it happened. I want to say it probably happened like 5 times in my life while I was in Liverpool. And I was there right up until, my late 20s.
Hmm.
And, I would get called names like, oh, you're a packy. And I'm sorry to use that term. Hopefully we can claim it back and not have it as a slur. But I remember the girl who called me that was someone who, in my very young mind, I was like, oh, I thought we could have been friends. You seemed lovely, lovely blonde
Hmm.
girl with blue eyes, and oh, I aspire to be you. And then I thought, you're really stupid for getting, my race, my ethnicity.
Hmm.
I can't be friends with you. You're so uncultured.
You're like, you can't even get your insults straight.
Yeah, it's like then keep going. No, it's ding ding. It just bounces off of me, and yeah, it's so rare when it happens that I just felt like that's not even an insult.
But you also think that you had such a thick skin because of your how you grew up at home because your parents were arguing all the time and you kind
I
of
think that was just more my concern. I
right.
just I just felt like the bad shit's happening at home, and it wasn't
Mm,
necessarily y- you know being done to me, but I just heard it, and just on that
mm,
audible level, it's pretty it just affected me. It really affected me. So I was really happy when they got divorced.
mm,
And I've heard many people say that too. They're like,
mhm.
oh my God, I celebrated it because it just meant um
Peace.
peace. Yeah. But I will say I did get some shit for my packed lunches when I went into school, because
They were
you know,
different.
they were different.
What would you have? What would you have?
Um, my mum would make char siu sandwiches when
What's that?
char siu is like a Chinese style barbecued pork and then sliced. I mean, I don't eat meat anymore, but I can confirm it was delicious. Um, Sometimes it would be leftovers, and And it was great. But, when you open that packed lunch box and it's just like, I'd get comments like, who's eating shit butties? And
What's butties?
a butty in Liverpool is a sandwich.
Oh, okay.
Who's eating shit butties? I'll be like, I am, and it's delicious. And again,
you're like, in 10 years, you're going to be paying $60 a plate for this shit booty.
Yeah. So, and again, it didn't really, it bothered me a little bit, but I loved the food. I loved my mom's cooking. I love my dad's cooking. So I just can't ever feel embarrassed or like I should hide it. Plus, my dad was a chef. So, yeah, I just found it very difficult for people to insult me and try to reduce my culture and the different cultures that I came from into just horrible words. It's like that I'm not gonna. I allow some things to affect me, but it's really interesting talking about this that I didn't give power to those words at the time.
That's remarkable for a kid or an adolescent or a teenager, because really you're so sort of preoccupied with fitting in all the time. Usually, normally, in quotes, normally. I know that I definitely got shit for my lunches. And I wanted to die. My mom gave me, like, instead of a lunch box when we moved here, everybody had lunch boxes, these tin boxes that I thought were so cool. My mom gave me like vintage purses to put my lunch into when I was like 9 years old. And that's so cool. If you look back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do that with my kid. But it's like, I wanted to die. Like, all I wanted was a stupid normal lunchbox. So, because we were like, what is that? Ugh. And then, she'd give me like whole wheat bread, which wasn't a thing back then yet, and yogurt, which nobody ate, blah, blah, blah. And like, people were like, oh, what are you eating? What is that? And I was like, I just want to be American. So your dad was a chef and had a restaurant. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. He did. Yeah.
And you lived above it. Is that right?
Yeah, we grew up above it. They were the best times and the most crazy times. I was embarrassed about living above a restaurant. I was the only person in my school that lived in a flat above a commercial business. Everybody else had a house with a garden and pets. And I felt like I couldn't invite anybody over because, what are you going to do? My best friend would come over, but I was wrong, actually, because I had a birthday party in the restaurant and everyone was like, this is brilliant. Just running around and running behind the bar and into the kitchen. This is on a Monday, so it was closed, and they loved it. They loved it. To this day, they're like, oh, do you remember we went to Jeannie's birthday and we were playing with the optics with the alcohol?
What was the restaurant called?
It was called the Jade House.
Were you allowed to help cook? Did you want to?
No. I like to hang out because I thought everybody that was in the kitchen was really cool and from different parts of the world.
Right.
We had one guy from, I don't know if he was Indonesian. I'm really bad with this one, but his name was T. I don't know his full name, but he was from somewhere in Indonesia. And then we had a couple of waiters from Thailand. We had some Chinese chefs. I felt like it was normal. It was my normal, And so I love being around just different, not even different, just a multicultural environment feels very much like home to me.
And so in a way, it makes more sense knowing that maybe also you weren't embarrassed or wanting to fit in, because what your dad or your parents kind of did with that, okay, this is my interpretation of it, is that they kind of celebrated their culture. They didn't hide it. They made it into something that they were sharing with the place that they were in, which wasn't of their culture.
Yeah.
So maybe that's also part of the reason, because it feels like, if I imagine growing up in a place like England and, growing up in a Chinese restaurant, then that's kind of like it's such a high stress environment, but you're also serving people food. So it's exciting because people walk out happy or, like they come there hungry. And so you're kind of it's such an art and it food transports culture like
Yeah.
almost nothing else. Maybe like music,
Mhm.
those two things. So
It was a very have you seen that show, The Bear?
I have, but it's too stressful for me.
Okay, so
I
that's
used
what I would say about it.
I worked in restaurants. I
Right.
worked in restaurants for 7 years. I was like, I don't need to watch this. Honestly,
I,
I'm good.
I think because of my upbringing, I love it. I
Oh,
just
really?
love that. It's like, maids away, get out of my way. My dad carrying a big pot full of soup or sauce or hot steaming whatever.
Right.
There's something mildly this is really bad. There's something that feels mildly abusive, mildly Gordon Ramsay about it.
Yes, yes.
And you recognize that I just have to get this food out and it needs to be good quality and we need these people to eat it, enjoy it, pay, and then get out.
Well, and also I feel like there are certain jobs where like a laissez-faire attitude,
Yeah.
it's not what you need. In a restaurant, you need to be on high energy. You get through it, you ba, 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 you hustle, and then at the end you relax and you laugh and you eat and you drink and you go home. But it's like also the speed that you need for it,
Oh
right? Like,
yeah.
although I have to say I love watching Gordon Ramsay.
I love it. I just love that. Love that energy because it feels so life and death.
Right.
It's just
Exactly.
and
It
you're like,
is. It's
whoa,
existential. It is. It's
yeah, yeah,
existential.
yeah.
Totally. But then you became an actor. Well, you were a makeup artist as well, and
I was
you've
like,
done so many things in your life, but you became an actress, an actor, and you moved to LA. Did you ever have moments where you felt like an alien here or in LA? Because LA is so different.
I think one of the biggest things was people didn't know how to cast me.
Mm.
you know, um,
Mhm, mhm,
and I think I had the same thing in England, which was, you're either not this enough or you're
mhm,
too much of this.
mhm, mhm. In Overwatch, for example, you play like a shape-shifting being.
She
You're kind of a shape-shifting being yourself, don't you
I
think?
I do feel like that. I'm extremely adaptable to the point where a person has said, I just don't know if I feel like you're being disingenuous with me. I don't know who you are. And this is like some guy who was dating a friend of mine who was from Manchester.
What?
And I was like, oh, I'm from Liverpool. And they're like, what? Your accent is all over where are you from? And try explaining that when you are an actor and when you're a voice actor and you become so many you have to step into this imaginary character, and for you to believe in the character that might mean different accent, different upbringing, different, I don't want to say like class of people, but that does affect how somebody speaks.
Mhm.
And so I don't know how I sound and I don't care so long as this is resonating with you. Just know that sometimes it changes in order to adapt. Like I'd be in Scotland, and just to make sure I'd get home safely, I put on a Scottish accent, or not home,
Ah,
just
ah,
wherever I
ah.
was staying, because I'm like, I don't know, this taxi driver's going to take me somewhere, and being a woman, you think about those things, right? And,
Yeah.
and so I'd be like, oh, I'm going to Orchard Bray, blah blah blah, whatever, and I would just feel a little bit, and in Manchester, it's the same thing. I just can't help but latch on to that. It kind of makes me feel like I don't stand out. I'm
Well,
full of
yeah, and then we're coming full circle to the beginning of our conversation, which is it's a survival mechanism, right? And I think it really is such a through line with children of immigrants, people who are immigrants themselves, this like adaptability, the hustle and the like sort of nonchalance towards the hustle that you're sort of like, what hustle? This is just normal. It's always about survival, the adaptability, the ability to fit in, to shapeshift. With you, especially though, I think, because you have so many different layers to what you've done in your life, to what your background is, your parents, your upbringing, where you are at now, it's the character that you voice on Overwatch it's almost like a little bit uncanny that, or maybe not,
No,
that's
yeah.
why they picked you, because your voice sort of resonates that in an inexplicable way that you can't pinpoint, but I think that's so interesting and so fascinating how there are things, how, there's a lot of talk about that trauma is passed down, but I think that if trauma's passed down, then the positives, the skills, the
Mhm.
survival mechanisms are also passed down,
Yeah.
and it's almost like in our DNA,
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I look at my mom now, and she's the life and soul of the local community. She's part of the
Mm,
Chinese community there, and then she also volunteers for the city of Liverpool whenever they have an event. She's the person telling you where different locations are. If you need to use the bathroom, she'll tell you the nearest one, and she wears that volunteer badge, really, with so much pride. And and then my dad was just everybody's mate. I
mm.
feel like if he could sit down, pour you a pint, and I don't know, I said pint like pint, pour you a pint. Um,
Now you're doing the Brooklyn accent. You're going point.
I'm pulling you a point. I also just wanted then, but anyway, um, yeah, he just broke bread with everybody, and he just bought drinks for everyone. So and it's almost like alcohol becomes the great leveler, and then you
Mm,
meet everybody at their most primal and either really happy or not. So you can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, sort of thing.
mm.
And I think I have a lot of that.
That's the most British thing you've ever said since I've known you.
I don't know. I even thought that. I was like, you don't even say that. That is not part of your repertoire. It's like, well done. That's probably the first time I've said wheat from chaff in the first place.
That's great.
But yeah, so
Do you feel at home in LA?
I love it here. I I feel like there's still more adventure to be had, and I don't know if it's just here. And I feel like that
Ah,
of wandering, you know, astral travel or whatever travel. I just feel like, last year when I was in New York and we came to see your show,
and we did parkour.
I was going to say we did street parkour, but when is
Yeah,
parkour not street?
right, exactly.
Okay. um, but I got back to LA, and I was looking at places to rent and wondering how could I make that work, because the energy is just so infectious. You
Yes.
just get swept up by it, even if you're trying to resist it. And here in LA, you have to go look for it,
Yeah, very true.
which again is
And
character building.
yeah, and when you go look for it, you come home with a boob job.
Yeah, you're just like, what?
You're like, what? I was just going to look for some energy.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Like, oh no, now I have the same nose as everybody else. I am slightly obsessed with looking at before and after videos that plastic surgeons post of
Yes, I love doing that too.
obsessed with it. I'm just like, but your entire the history of your heritage gone.
Yeah, right.
But again, you want people to be happy, and if that's what makes you happy, that's fine. But I just find it fascinating when you can see people who look like their great great grandmother or their
Yeah. Or just a grandmother. God forbid you look like a grandmother.
yeah, it's like,
Uh,
wait, so you're 35? No, I'm 70.
no, but it's like, you know what? Rather than look like a grandmother, I prefer to look like a lizard. What the hell? These people. Anyway, don't get me started. Don't get me
No,
started on the plastic surgery conversation.
fascinating though.
Jeannie, I told you this beforehand. I always ask my guests on the podcast if they grew up with any sayings or proverbs. And we didn't really talk about your knowledge of Cantonese. You said you speak it poorly, but you did grow up hearing a few sayings or proverbs, and you wrote me some, which are very funny.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Oh, there was
I
one.
love this one. I love this one. If it has 4 legs and it's back to the sky, eat before it eats you.
Eat it before it eats you. Yeah.
Eat it.
Eat it before it eats you. Yeah.
But what does that mean, back to the sky?
So like cattle, pig.
Oh, it's back to the sky.
Back.
Oh, it's not like going back. See, I was thinking like if you see a bird, grab it before it goes back to the sky.
You know, that as well, though. They're like, don't let it get away. Yeah, my grandmother, when I was explaining that I was a vegetarian, yeah, she's just, you know, I don't want to, do I want to do an impersonation of her? Yeah. So she used to say a lot of things, you know, like with my last name being French and everything.
Your grandma?
My grandma.
Okay.
Who's my mom's mom. But she's the person who would say, you know, eat it before it eats you. You know, that kind of, she was just very, she was so, she's like most grandmas, right? They just know everything.
Yes.
Their life, their worldview, and those proverbs in Chinese, at least my Chinese family were really superstitious. And
you wrote me another one that is, eat every grain of rice in the bowl or else you'll end up with a acne faced husband.
Yeah. So that, I think it was, I don't know how you would say the beginning part because I'm terrible with Cantonese, but I do know that the acne faced husband would be a dao. I think it was a dao pei lo gong. So dao pei would be like a spotty, speckled faced husband.
I love it.
Grain because it's like, oh well, we don't want that, do we? I mean,
you're like, grandma, ever heard of Accutane? Ugh.
It's like, do you know what's that proactive stuff? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm gonna make him exfoliate. I'm done with this rice.
This is how we tell friends though, when they're dating someone and they're like, his teeth are awful, he dresses really badly, he's got BO, he's all of these things. And I'm like, these are things that can be changed. Like, you're not asking him to do like a big personality change. It's just certain behavioral change, and it's like, it's nothing.
But that's so funny. Oh yeah, I'm dating this great guy, it's just that he has BO and his teeth are yellow. What the hell is like, that?
Well, he's a lawyer, you could eventually guide him towards the dentist and he could have big old veneers. I'm like, what do you want? What do you want?
That's so funny. You know, in German, there's a sort of similar saying, but it's meaner, of course, because it's German, and more like with the intent of erasing joy from everybody's life, which is also German. And it's if you sing at the dinner table, you'll marry a man who stinks and drinks.
I mean, it is very similar.
But it's so much meaner because at least it's about eating everything in your bowl. Like, that makes sense. So you're not wasting anything. Yeah. The German one is just mean. It's like to tell kids, and of course, female kids, right? If they're like, la, 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 Germans are like, if you keep singing, you will marry a man that stinks and drinks. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So they didn't want you to speak or sing or make sound at the dinner table?
No joy allowed at the German dinner table, Jeannie. Yeah. Didn't you know that?
very much my household. My mom was she just couldn't deal with um just any noise at the end of the day. And I get it. I think she was just overwhelmed and whatnot, but it was like silence, you know. So yeah, we would just eat in silence. And I think it took me a few years to kind of come out of that, you know.
Interesting. Be able
Yeah.
to talk and stuff during dinner.
Talk through doing, yeah, or just like if there was a new group of people, and still to this day I think I can be quite quiet until I figure out
Mm,
my place. But yeah, it
mm-hmm.
really, yeah, my mom had quite a profound effect on, yeah, I guess. I'm having a breakthrough moment.
funny, funny how parents have that an effect on us.
Oh my God.
Ah.
Yeah, it's just like, oh God, you just took me back. I guess when I think about it, I'm like, it's so unnecessary. It really was.
Parents.
Yeah. No.
I feel like my new thing is that I don't know why Stockholm syndrome is a syndrome. We all have that.
Oh yeah.
We are all these like little prisoners
Oh yeah.
who are like love our captivators,
Yeah.
our how do you say it? Captors.
Captors. Yeah.
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 That's what like your relationship with your parents is. Everybody hello, uh everybody has Stockholm syndrome.
It's a little messed up.
Yeah.
It's true, and it is a little messed up, and especially, you know, I know a lot of people are like, oh, but we're so sick of hearing about this narrative with like tiger moms and all that stuff. It's actually of a generation. It's very true.
Hmm.
So you can't erase that. It is what it is.
Right.
You can kind of navigate around it, or you can rewrite it so that it's not part of your present life or your
Hmm.
future life, but it's definitely something that's molded many of us. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Well, on that note, everybody, have a nice life. No. If you're not fucked up by your parents, then what are you doing?
Yeah,
Who
who
are
are
you?
you?
What did you even live?
Yeah.
Jeannie Bolet on Immigrant Gem, the podcast. I like to do a little something that we call the poll questionnaire. Are you ready to play the poll questionnaire before we say goodbye? There's no right or wrong answers. First thing that comes to mind. Are you ready to do it? Jeannie Bolet of Liverpool, England, by way of Vietnam, Cambodia, France, Hong Kong, and now LA. Are you ready?
Yes.
Jeannie Bolet, what is the most Liverpoolian thing you've ever done?
What is the most Liverpoolian thing I've ever done? There's so many, but I want to say it's it's going uh, taking the ferry across the Mersey, and that's probably the most. It's just is it what? No, it's a bit touristy.
Wait, where do you take? Where does it go?
So there's it just as a loop. It's kind of
Oh.
like yeah. It's kind of like taking the ferry to Staten Island.
No, it's like taking the Circle Line, which is like super touristy here.
Oh, well, I haven't been on the Circle Line.
Well, you haven't lived, have you?
No, I
No,
haven't.
but or going to Staten Island. That's hilarious. I love
Right.
that.
It's like that, and you know.
But doesn't your friend operate this ferry?
No, my friend operates the Magical Mystery Tour bus in
Ah,
Liverpool.
yes,
You're a
yes, yes.
Beatles fan. My friend Neil, he runs it. He's very learned about the Beatles in Liverpool, and he's very funny. He does the tour on the
Got it.
Magical Mystery Tour bus.
Okay. What is the most LA thing you've ever done?
Um, want to say wear my sunglasses when it's dark outside.
The OG douchebag move.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, when you put them on, you're like, oh my God, I just feel like an LA dick.
Wear your sunglasses in the dark and demand a table at the Chateau Marmont.
I'm sure there are many. I often say, it's like, oh my God, that was such an LA moment. This is, but yeah, that one's fun.
Okay. If you were president of the United States of America, what American food would you ban?
I don't think it's American, but it has become a staple. It's the pizza.
What? Oh my God. Oh my God. The walls around me just collapsed. Everybody's running for dear life. I'm in New York City and you want to ban pizza?
I know. I think
why?
I think it's because it's not good for my gut health. It's just like, it really doesn't like me. Pizza doesn't like me. It hasn't liked me for as long as I can remember having it.
But so you don't like pizza because it doesn't like you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the wrong way to look?
No, not at all. It's not, there's no wrong way, but I can't be friends with you anymore. Okay. Well,
I mean, it was nice while it lasted.
I know it was. I, there's just some things that you can't unhear,
I saw that guy who said that he would ban bagels.
Oh yes, Panji Pragiwaksono from Indonesia.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, I don't mind a bagel.
Yeah, I've never spoken to him since.
Yeah,
in fact, I erased that episode. No, I didn't.
Look, there's plenty of stuff I get rid of. It's just pizza's just I think it's just like
I have to say pizza is the single most controversial answer to that question that I've gotten on the podcast. And there's been hot dogs, bagels, but pizza. And I love that you said, I don't think it's American. I'm not sure where this pizza thing comes from. Okay. That's fine. If you were president of the United States of America, which American person would you deport?
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Pretty dark question.
Not necessarily. I mean, you can also choose where they go.
Oh yeah. I mean, just so that he can go experience different cultures. I was going to say Trump, but even Lindsey Graham, because
nice
flip-flop. He flip-flops so much, and I just feel like you just need to go and experience so that you can really decide what's
you need an exchange year.
He needs an exchange year. I don't know if I wanted to put anybody. It's just like, what's a good educational trip for you so that perhaps you can open your heart and mind to other cultures.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. If you had to come up with a catchphrase for the United States of America, what would it be?
America, come here. You'll love it. Maybe. No, you will. ...
I love it. Jeannie Bolet, you are an absolute inspiration. You are such an amazing person. I love talking to you. I know that our listeners probably feel like they're floating on a cloud. Jeannie Bolet, where can people find you on the old internet?
Jeannie Bolet, just at Jeannie Bolet. On Instagram. I'm never on Twitter. Is anyone still on Twitter?
I don't know.
It's
no, I don't think so. It's weird for sure.
Yeah, it's not a great use of my time. But I love the old gram.
Not Lindsay. Huh? Instagram. Not Lindsay, just Instagram.
When Lindsay comes back from his sabbatical or student exchange, then maybe.
And you're working on lots of stuff. You're obviously Echo in Overwatch and Overwatch 2. And we have to give a little shout out to Douchebag Steve. Could you say hi to Douchebag Steve?
Hey, douchebag Steve.
And Craig, also Craig.
Craig.
But Douchebag Steve and Craig are two of our most beloved patrons. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please follow Jeannie Bolet on Instagram, not on Lindsey Graham, not on Twitter, okay? Just relax. Do not come near her with pizza, all right? Don't do it. Don't even think about it. Jeannie Bolet is the best. You guys listening are the best today. Spotify sent me a little thing telling me that people in 59 countries have been listening to Immigrant Jam since I've released the first episode in April, which made my day. 59 countries. That's so wild and so amazing. I was so psyched to hear and see that. So thank you so much to everyone out there listening. If you like this podcast, please give us a little rating and review on iTunes. Those help so much. 5 stars only. Tell your friends about it. Share it with your friends. If you hate it, share it with your enemies. And check out the Patreon. There's some extras on there. It's fun, early access stuff. And it helps us make these and supports us going forward and having more amazing guests on, like the amazing, beautiful, gorgeous, incredible Jeannie Bolet. Look out for everything she's doing. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Lucie, your host. I love you. Goodbye.